Okay, so let's get the little bike down and see how she gets on for our MOT, and then when I come back we'll do a little cost analysis and see how she gets on. If you haven't seen the first video, I will put a link in the description below and you can see a bit more of the history of the bike. We did have a bit of a challenge. This was my brother-in-law's first bike and he was on a tight budget. The budget was £500. Could we get him a bike that was roadworthy, MOT'd and ready to ride? Simple answer to that was no. That was a bit unrealistic. I'm not saying you can't get a bargain, you can get bargains turn up. But at the moment in the UK, trying to get a good 125 for £500 with an MOT certificate, difficult. Anyway, we decided to do it this way, to get a bike, restore it and put it on the road, but we had to stick to the budget. And the big question is, did we manage it? Well, I have the figures here. The parts that we replaced were the chain and sprocket kit, the throttle cable, we bought a stainless steel engine bolt kit, a gasket set, a set of handlebars, an indicator relay, a battery, an air filter, a spark plug, bolt head covers, a speedo cable, we bought wheel bearings for the front and the back and for the sprocket carrier, and as well as the seals that go along with that, the fork seals and the dust caps. I'd also had to buy a second-hand starter motor. I hadn't put that in the video, but the reason we didn't get it started initially was that the starter motor literally fell apart when we tried to start it. So got one on eBay, £15, that was it. We had to buy a little reflector for the back, a rear indicator, so we got a rear indicator as well. That was broken. I had accidentally broken the front indicator, so I'm not including that in the cost. I had to buy that myself, so I'll not include that in the cost. The MOT certificate was £28. Now the total cost of the parts, so all the parts, not counting the MOT certificate, was £239.12. The MOT was £28. Now, things like oil, paint, bolts, powder coat, bits I had lying about the garage, I have to estimate that because these are things I use constantly, and I'm estimating it conservatively at £25. I don't think it would have been much more than that. The cost of the bike itself, now that's interesting. I got this from someone I know, and we do a bit of bartering back and forward, so we kind of tend to do each other favours. So I got the bike for £100, and that is probably well below, even given the state the bike was in, that is probably below what it was worth. It would surprise you, you know, what people are asking for bikes that are in a terrible state. So we did all right getting it for that. So the grand total for the bike and all the parts, the MOT, putting on the road was £392.12. So we did manage to keep it within budget, which is, you know, obviously that was important, but I'm delighted we managed to do that. We didn't get any real nasty surprises with the engine or anything expensive we had to fix. Occasionally that happens, but in this case we were lucky enough it didn't happen. So I put it down for the MOT this morning. No, yesterday. I put it in for its MOT yesterday, and it failed. And I was, what? It failed. And the reason it failed was the simplest of things. Greg had ordered stainless steel pins to hold these rear foot pegs on, and they hadn't arrived. And I'd forgotten about that you need rear pegs if you have a rear passenger seat. You need the rear pegs or it will fail its MOT. So it did, but I just took the old ones down while we were there, put them back on, and it passed immediately. So there's no issues with the bike whatsoever. I asked him to give it a good check over. I know the chap, he does the MOTs properly. He checked the whole bike thoroughly, and he commended it for being really a sound little bike. We didn't have that many problems with it prior to getting it for the MOT. One thing that wasn't on the video was the front brake was binding, and all it was my fault. I'll hands up to it. When I powder coated it, when I'd masked it, I hadn't masked the slides properly, so we just had to sand it down slightly, and it's working perfectly now. The other issue we had with the bike was the throttle control. We had to replace the cable. The old one was so bad we had to cut it off, and it just wouldn't rev properly. But anyhow, we managed to, with a bit of modification, we managed to get that sorted. So the bike is really, it's not perfect, nothing's perfect. One of the things I noticed with the MOT certificate was that the last time this bike was on the road was 2014. So it's lain for 10 years, probably in that barn or in a back garden. So it's not surprising it was in the state it was in. But also it means that the mileage is corroborated, because it's very low miles. It's only done 7,300 odd miles, and for a Honda that's nothing. You know, it'll easily do 3, 4, 5, 10 times that. So for future work on this bike, there isn't a lot to do. One of the things that Greg might consider is either replacing the exhaust. There is a possibility we could open it up and weld the baffle. I think what's happened, there's corrosion inside it and the baffle's rattling about a little bit. Doesn't do it all the time, but it's there. So it may be we open it up, or we just try and get another exhaust for it. There's a crack in the plastics at the front here, and some of the decals are torn a little bit. Again, that's just been pernickety. If you're going to use this bike as a daily rider or mode of transport, I don't see the point in you have to really look for it. I don't really see the point in doing that. But if he does want to do it, if Greg wants to do it, we'll repair it and repaint the fairing and get a set of decals for it if they're available. And I suppose if you're thinking about doing your own, taking on your own project, then you know you can get yourself a really good bike. The caveat here is time. Now, we could have went out and bought a bike. Granted, it would have cost a lot more money, but we wouldn't have had to do all that work or spend that time on it. The flip side of that is we enjoy doing that kind of thing. Bob and I have been doing this for years. It's our hobby, it's our passion. We just build bikes and We rescue them from, we've rescued them from hedges before. So we just rescue a bike and we get it back in good working order, or restored, or recommissioned, whatever is suitable for that particular bike, and we just get it back on the road again. So for us, the time is okay. We don't mind spending the time. But if your time is precious and you've got a high pressure job, or you need to spend your time in other places, then think carefully about taking on a project. It can easily swallow up a lot of your time, and this is why you see a lot of unfinished projects up for sale, because people, they get fed up. It goes on and on and on. They don't realise the amount of work that's involved in it, or they come across a problem and then it just becomes too much. For this particular bike, I am roughly calculating we spent about, between the three of us, about 30 hours. And if you had put that in to be done in a garage somewhere, if you put this bike in for that work to be done in a garage, even at £50 an hour, which is low, that would be £1,500. However, I don't see any garage taking on a job like that. For one, it's too old a bike, and it's, who's going to spend the time rubbing down a frame, you know. We could have got it blasted and powder coated, we could have done that, but again, we were just conscious of cost, and we wanted to use everything that we had and get the bike done for us, you know, within budget if we could. So I'm delighted that we managed to do that. I hope it's encouraged you a little bit to take on your own project. A good idea is to have someone with you who maybe knows a little bit about bikes, or has maybe done a project before. Sometimes if you're stuck with something on your own, it can be a bit tricky. So it's always good to have somebody there to give you a little bit of encouragement. And of course, watch YouTube videos. That's also very helpful. Okay, so this is the end of this video. I'll probably do a little road review on this bike at some point. And if this sort of content interests you and you haven't subscribed, then please consider it. I will also give a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed. I'm blown away by the amount of people and new subscribers that have come on board. Welcome and thank you for doing that. And I hope to produce videos that are of interest to you. Okay, so ride safe, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.